tonight.
Hang on.
Line drive towards second. Caden Grove goes there. He squeezes the line drive. And on a night filled with emotion, honoring our leader, Greg Sharp, with his eyes on the diamond and his hands on the shoulders. Nebraska takes it out. 16 brings Vanderbilt 6-4. Sharpie, that one is for you. Now, here's Tom Stevens.
What a call from Ben McLaughlin on a night where Nebraska beat 16th ranked Vanderbilt, and Greg Sharp, the voice of the Huskers, was not there, but we still are remembering him. He will never be forgotten. Welcome into Husker Rewind every Sunday, 5 to 7. Tom Stevens, Mike Melby. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Doing good, Tom. How are you?
I'm good. Had a good week. Baseball did not. We'll talk about baseball with Evan Bland in the second hour, 6:25. A lot of Husker basketball as well tonight. Bo Reed in the next 15 to 20 minutes, the Hall of Famer, calling in from the Cayman Islands. He's on vacation. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bother you. He goes, no, I want to do it. He's on vacation. Yeah, I want to do it. So we'll talk to Bo Reed in about 20 minutes from now. Got Caleb Henry of Husker Rewind on the morning show right here on KLIN with Jack and Friends. He is now at Husker Max and a writer, and a very good one. Evan Bland, as I mentioned, in hour number 3. So what's going on in your world? I heard you were back with the Stars doing a little
Did a little
PA work.
PA work last night for me. Did second and third period of the home opener, and then Craig Estudillo, who's done all 30 years, all 29 years of the Stars doing PA. I would fill in for him when I was doing radio.
Yeah.
And he had probably one of the most important weddings he's ever done tonight. With the situation that was involved, he was DJing the wedding for Greg Sharp's daughter. And obviously it was something he was not going to miss.
That was at Josh Banderas' place, his place in Palmyra.
Yeah.
In fact, that's pretty cool.
So,
Greg did not get to. I think that they had some sort of ceremony when Greg was still here last week. So
so yeah, it was fun. It's been a while since I've done the intros and all that stuff and the timing, and we had some hiccups, but that pesky,
Stars are good this year.
That pesky copy machine will get you sometimes. The Stars are really good. They have won 15 of 16 with the win last night. They clinched a playoff spot. I know they're first in the division.
Sioux City, I believe, is second.
Yeah,
a couple points behind.
It's. I'll be honest with you. It's the best team since I think it was the 11-12 team.
Good crowd
with Kevin Waugh. Just under a sellout. They needed like 14 more people to show up, and it would have been officially a sellout. So that's where guys like Steve Zuhoff come in. When I was there, Steve was always the guy that would be like, 14 tickets left to go. Got it. Just give them to me. I'll make sure we got butts and seats.
Remember back in the days when we down at P.O. Pears, take the Pears bus down and back.
Yeah.
And Bob would drive, and of course we'd always meet at P.O. Pears before and afterhand. Man, that was a party. I mean, At one time the Lincoln Stars were pretty much the biggest party in town.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, you had an owner that came in after the original owners sold it, and they never realized they bought a hockey-themed bar.
Right.
You can run a good successful business with this hockey theme, and they chose not to.
Red Nine.
I'll be careful with my words about Mr. Schiff, but him and Mr. Hull essentially destroyed the franchise. And so the new owner came in after 5 or 6 years of Jeff owning it, and they've done everything they can to try to build it back up, and they've got a good coach.
Always doing good things.
Great eye for talent, and it's obvious he can coach because they've got a help this year.
Well, they're fun to watch when they're good. They're fun to watch anyway, but Of course, Gary Sharp, the original voice of, I believe it's Stars, and then you came along after that for many years. You called the Stars?
I was involved with the organization for 15.
Yeah.
So I didn't call all the games all 15 years because Gary was there, but I was involved in some capacity for 15 years.
So it's good to have them back. I mean, being good. I mean, it's been a while since the Stars have been this good. Let's get to the opening kickoff.
And a happy birthday to the coaching legend himself. Mr. Tom Osborne turns 88 today. Nebraska basketball sits at 17-10 overall, 7-9 in conference play after a lackluster performance last Wednesday and an 89-72 loss at Penn State. They are still sitting square on the NCAA tournament bubble, however, projected by most to be a 10 seed. They have nothing but opportunity in front of them, though. 3 of the final 4 games are at PBA, starting on Monday night, a matchup against number 12 Michigan. Then they host Minnesota on March 1st, travel to Ohio State on March 4th, wrap up the season at PBA against Iowa on March 9th. 3-1, they're a lock. They're a
I
7,
think if
8,
they
9
beat Michigan, I really think if they beat Michigan, they're almost a lock.
They still, I mean, they're going to need to win.
That's a huge resume win.
It will, but it was
Right.
more than cancels that. I mean, they've got Michigan. I don't think they're going to beat Michigan. I still believe in this team. I still think they're an NCAA tournament team. I still think they get the first NCAA tournament win in program history, but I don't think they beat Michigan. Michigan is just, I mean, they're too good.
Well, Michigan is coming off a loss, which you probably don't want to play Michigan.
And that's the thing. They got kind of spanked by Coach Izzo, but that's what most teams do when they play.
That's a really good Michigan team. And
State
Dusty May's going to be years.
Yeah.
They were the worst team in the league last year with Juwan Howard. They won 8 games.
Yes. Yep. No. Like I said, I just don't see them winning that game. I hope they do. They got to figure themselves out. And I think
that was a bad loss to Penn State, but Penn State's now won 2 in a row.
Yeah,
they went to Minnesota and won.
At Minnesota. But that's the thing, though. It's like Nebraska can play with anybody, and they can play down to levels that are below
the worst team in the league, which they proved on Wednesday.
They've got to get rid of the Jekyll and Hyde.
I know, but let's face it, they have not played well in this stretch. They were lucky to come back
20 down Western
without Burke. They didn't have Burke, Duke to gel. They will have Burke tomorrow.
Is it official?
I think so.
I heard he's still kind of day to day, and
I think he's back.
Okay.
I from what I've heard, he wouldn't have been great, but they could have played him at Penn State. I think he's back.
It would have been a long trip to the arena for him because he was still in Lincoln.
He would have had to take an Uber.
Yeah. Nebraska women's basketball team 18-10, 9-8 overall in conference after a blowout loss, kind of an embarrassing loss to Washington on Senior Day earlier today. They wrap up their regular season at Northwestern next Sunday at 2. Alexis Markowski. Amy Just writes articles that make you cry.
Yep,
she just kind of has the knack for it.
She and Chattel.
Yeah, they both do. And her article on Alexis Markowski and more than that, Jamie Markowski, her mom, that article that she wrote and was released today is spectacular. It's one of her best pieces of work.
I was going to have her dad, Andy Markowski, on the show tonight. He said, please forgive me. It's It's senior night.
Yeah.
Saying there's a lot of stuff going on. Can I do it next time? I said, well, I guess. Yeah. I guess you can do it some other time.
Exactly. No spring game for Nebraska this year or ever again. Good, bad, or indifferent. We'll talk about that later. I think we got that planned for the second hour. Earlier this week, Nebraska AD Troy Danid canceled Nebraska's upcoming home-and-home series with Tennessee. Some hate it. Some say in the big picture it makes plenty of sense.
I think you have to do it.
Stadium renovation, wanting to maximize revenue, blah, blah, blah. I don't think the fan base is as upset. It's like the vocal minority is upset, and it's a pretty big minority.
He tried to move it. He tried to move it for the second time. They moved. That's when they picked up Oregon, I think, in the 2016 season. They had canceled it. Then they picked up Oregon for 2 years in a row. Then they canceled again this time around because of the stadium renovation. They want to get an extra home game. And they've got, I think, Bowling Green and Miami of Ohio. Those are going to be 2 years in a row. They've got 2 home games back to back. And it's because of the stadium renovation. They're losing 15,000 seats because they're remodeling Memorial Stadium.
Well, I get it, but they're going to sell out every game. Who the hell cares who the opponent is? My problem with the situation in this entire thing is the comment that he gave Tom Chattel at the Nebraska women's game earlier today that Tom tweeted out a while ago, where he said, yeah, I talked to some powers that be with the college football playoff committee or whatever, and they said that essentially the Tennessee game wouldn't really mean much.
Well,
so a team that's in the college football playoff this year is not going to mean much for your resume if you win.
From what I'm hearing, the SEC and the Big Ten are trying to set that up. And if they lose those non-conference games, then it won't count as much as conference games. They're going to try to make it so with the new college football playoff, in conference will matter more. And right now, I understand a little bit because the SEC has only 8 conference games, and they play roast beef state always like in late November.
Why they set themselves? I mean, it's just smart.
I think it's a great idea. I think the Big Ten should do it as well, but they never will now because there's so much money involved.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of it. I think it looks kind of chicken bleep. Matt Rule made it very clear he didn't want that series to happen. I don't know. I think it looks like we want to back our way in candidate style. We're going to play Cupcake U every week until we have to play the games in conference that mean something.
Well, they still have Penn State on the schedule and USC and UCLA.
Great. They're all conference games that they have to play. But we're going to play Cupcake U every game now in non-conference. I don't agree with that.
I like cupcakes. You did mention that it's Tom Osborne's 88th birthday.
Yep.
This is one of my favorite speeches of all time by Bob Costas after Tom Osborne won his first national title. There you go. Nebraska wins its first national championship under Tom Osborne, his first one. Obviously, they'd won 2 under Bob Devaney, but he waited all those years, finally gets it, and then he goes on a run, 94, 95, 97.
Yeah, 63.
That was pretty good.
Insane over those 4 years.
Nobody will – Nebraska will never see that again, especially in this day and age.
The college football landscape today, no one will do.
Matt Rule has talked a lot about the new day and age of college football. Josh Pate interviewed him on his college football show podcast. We'll do that in the second hour.
Okay. Nebraska baseball team has not gotten off to the start it had hoped for. They currently sit 3-4 with a lot of question marks around their offense. It has failed to do much of anything in the last 4 games, scoring 1, 6, 1, and 2 runs respectively. They're going to try to get the bats going at the Frisco College Baseball Classic next weekend when they take on Sam Houston State. LSU, who got upset, by the way, by UNO earlier this week, and Kansas State. That'll be their 3 games. We'll see if they can get the bats rolling. Nebraska softball team, talk about rolling 12-4 to start the year in their first 16 games. A 10-2 run rule win today over Utah. That was the final game of the Mary Nutter Collegiate Classic. Jordy Ball has been the catalyst, as expected, to the success. She currently has an ERA of 0.54. That was before today's game. Probably up. Just like she can give up 2 earned runs today. In the now 7 games she's played. She's also the team's best hitter, hitting at .514, 5 home runs. All of those numbers led to a NCAA Softball Player of the Week honor a couple of weeks ago. Next weekend they will play 5 games in the Wichita State tournament. So that'll wrap up the kickoff.
She is as advertised. Of course, the rest didn't have her last year. She was injured in the very first game of the year. And now with her, they're a top 20 team. So,
top 13, I think so.
Yeah, they're really, really good. You worry a little bit with the softball team, and I think about pitching depth. You worry about pitching overall, I think, and offense with the team.
Yeah, I don't. Well, softball though is a different game. I mean, you've got a dominant pitcher.
You really need to. It's been a long time since Peaches James
was Peaches James and
like 500 innings or whatever it was.
It was just were the two stud pitchers, and that was back when I was calling games for the Nebraska softball team, and they both complemented each other. Peaches was a touch better than Leanne Walker was, but still both of them just dominant. But in reality, I go back to Kat Osterman, who was a brilliant pitcher for Texas back in the late 90s and early 2000s. And, I mean, she pitched 80% of her team's games just because the wear and tear of the wind before the ball doesn't and so, if Jordy Ball winds up pitching 45 games this year, I would tend to think that she's built to do it since, she just went through, back-to-back national championship seasons at Oklahoma, and she was the best player.
She didn't hit at Oklahoma. Now she's hitting at Nebraska.
You utilize your best player with every tool they have, and she has a workshop with like every tool that is imaginable in softball in it. So
I would still like to see a little more depth on the mound, and I think they'll probably get it as the season goes along with this softball team. Right now, it's the offense. There are problems with the offense. Ty Horn on yesterday pitched pretty well in the first game. They lose 4-1. He only gave up a couple of runs. But in the nightcap, they get beat 10-2. Will Walsh did not pitch well at all. Nebraska's striking out a lot. I think they've already struck out so far 66 times, I want to say, on the season. That's too many. But we'll talk a lot of Husker baseball, maybe a little softball as well. I don't know what Evan knows about Nebraska softball, but he knows a lot about Husker football and baseball for sure.
That he does. Yeah, Emerson Cope, Hannah Kamzid, kind of the two that you'll see in the circle a lot this year. Kamzid is one that has started 4 games, and then Kylie McGee started 3. So
there you go.
Yeah, Emerson Cope has made 7 appearances with only 1 start. So she's been kind of the key coming out of the bullpen.
Here's Mike Melby, the former voice of Husker softball. We have the current voice on this radio station. Of course, Nate Rohr, part of the Jack and Friends morning show here on KLIN. Maybe we should talk a little about what Matt Rule had to say with Josh Pate of the College Football Show podcast. It was very good. He talked about the spring game, and you mentioned that during the Husker headlines that you just delivered. Let's talk about it coming up next. No more Husker spring game. What do you think? Talk about it coming up.
Criminal investigations, aviation, drone operations, Husker detail, and more. There are unlimited ways to define your career.
So you doing Bo Reed here?
Oh, yeah.
February 24th. Visit HuskerTroopers.com to get ready for the good life.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price
402
for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
Why is it not? 402 770 5529. I didn't text him, so I hope he answers.
You don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and
Call Bo Reed
for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at SCORE.org.
Come on.
Told us right away that we're going to house you, we're going to feed you, Every single one of his medical bills is just all taken care of.
They've saved my family from financial ruin. It allowed me and my
God damn it, I hate
the
that.
most important thing, which was the health and well-being of our son. We have phenomenal research, outstanding clinical care, and the generosity of public, which allow us to treat patients regardless of what it takes. And that's what makes St. Jude so magical.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, families never receive a bill for treatment, travel, housing, or food, because the only thing a family should worry about is helping their child live.
Doctors send us the toughest cases to be treated at St. Jude, and our patients come from all over the world.
When we come here, they told me, don't worry, everything will be taken care of. We can never repay St. Jude for what they've given us.
Because of you.
Because of you, there is St. Jude.
55-28.
With Tom Stevens and Mike Melby, two guys old enough to actually.
You're going to give it a couple of minutes so I can kind of go back through the opening kick and recap some stuff.
I'll play that spring thing so we could do that headline. I'll do the spring thing real quick. I said call the studio line.
Yeah, just keep an eye on it.
Yeah. There you go, Matt Rule on the Josh Pate podcast, the college football show podcast, talking about Nebraska's spring game being no longer. He says in part because it was televised the last year in particular, I think is what he's talking about, on BTN. And he felt like his players were being poached, like they were calling up players, and that's what you do directly in college football. I don't think there is really any rule to have stopped it. I don't know of any punishment for doing that. A lot of coaches have called it directly today. I liked what you did in the spring game. Come on over.
Yeah, you got to imagine Ja'Cory Barney Jr. got a phone call.
Yeah.
Just educated guess there.
And I think, and Matt Rule mentioned it, it was one of the things that a lot of teams are they're going to do it this year. Penn State mentioned that they'll play a spring game, but I think you're going to see it be a thing of the past very shortly. I mean, from here on out, most coaches just won't do it for one of the reasons. Players are getting paid now. In some cases, a couple $1 million. And if a guy gets injured in a spring game after playing in it and you're paying him and they're under contract, that wouldn't be a good look.
No. I've never been a big fan of the spring game. I've never attended any of them. I've never had any interest, any care. I mean, I go back
it's
to
a celebration.
I get it, but I go back to Waverly, and we would have the soap scrimmage when I was in high school.
Right.
And it was we literally were begging people to bring us soap so that we had soap because school couldn't afford it for showers after practice and after games. That's what the soap scrimmage literally
They would show up with
So
People with the
there's a big tub in the outfield.
Oh, this is football. Okay.
Yeah, no, we had the soap scrimmage before the season every year, and your entry fee was a bar of soap.
And they would bring all different varieties.
Oh yeah, I mean, Irish Spring was the most
manliest
sought after.
Yeah.
But so I get the celebration of the pre-camp or the end of camp and spring camp, all that.
I think they've done like cans of food for the food bank in the past at the Nebraska games.
But I always felt like if you want to like have the fans embrace your team more, everything, make that spring game as opposed to a practice. Get your 15 practices in and basically make this, especially in this day and age with the players being paid. I would love to see it turn into Coach Darlington, I believe, for years taught football 101 and then 201, 301, but he was kind of educating people on the game of football. How many average fans know what the A gap is? How many average fans know what an ISO is? How many average fans know what Tampa 2 cover 2 looks like? I'm talking just average Joe fan. They hear the term all the time, but can they describe it? Why not do an educational session where you've got however many fans that are there and you got the players that are walking through and doing demonstrations of what this is and, like the things that they do, getting into the depth of the playbook, but just some basic terminology and education for everybody. I always thought something like that would be kind of cool, and then do a Q&A.
Well, he did say that he's going to do something for fans, maybe a 7-on-7, some sort of Oklahoma drill. Who knows what it will be? It'll be something for the fans that is related to Husker football. I think Troy Dannon has talked about a celebration of spring or fall sports. Maybe the volleyball team out there doing some sort of demonstration on serving. Maybe you have a scrimmage from the Husker volleyball team. I don't know what they plan to do, but he did mention at one point a celebration of fall sports. So maybe you could have Raiola throw some passes around to Dane Key. I don't know what you would do, but I do know Husker fans have showed up in many years and they sell 55,000, 60, 90,000 tickets.
I think you're onto something. What if you brought out athletes that their seasons are over, so the fall sports, right? And you take them and you've got Dylan Raiola throwing passes to the volleyball team. So Harper Murray is going to be doing and then you've got Dylan trying to block, Harper Murray or take a set from Bergen Riley and try to get a kill.
I love it.
But something where you interact the sport. I mean, there's all kinds of thoughts and possibilities to make it entertaining, raise some money for a charity, something along those lines. But, the game the spring game specifically has never been much of anything other than something to get Nebraska fans proverbial undies in a bunch over a specific player or two, and then demanding in the fall, look what he did in the spring game. And because they're obviously there for every practice and they know everything that goes on behind the scenes.
I just think when you have a 105-man roster, and Nebraska does now or will now, I think they can actually carry up until and after the spring, like 115, 25, whatever it is.
They can carry 500 if they wanted to up until August 1st. And August 1st, it needs to be 105.
And then it will be. But I think there's a big danger. And it's not like every guy's getting paid on the roster. In fact, Matt Rule mentioned it's going to be like 50 to 60 guys that get paid on any given roster. And then after that, you fill out the 105. And those guys, in many cases, will not get paid. But in many cases, I've seen it even last year. Did Ty Robinson even play? Did Nash Hotmacher even play in that game? I don't think they did. If they played a couple of snaps, maybe I'm surprised.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, there was no reason for them to.
Yeah.
But
you do. I guess you don't want to get anybody injured, and those guys that did play in that game were getting calls from other coaches saying, hey, do you want to come on over?
Yeah.
And I understand that feeling from Matt Rule. Nebraska has a big fan base all over the country, and it was a watched game. BTN knows if they put it on BTN that people will watch.
The thing that I guess I'm puzzled about with the landscape of college football and where it's gone in the last 2 years. You and I started doing a show, and one of our first shows, we're talking about how things are moving quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Like the game is going to look totally different as soon as 2 years down the road. And sure enough, it does. And the entire time, there have been no guardrails. None. There has been no rule. There has been no enforcement. There has been no nothing, right? And everybody talks about it. And everybody goes, someday, yeah, we got to rein this in. You know what? You got a lot of powerful people, and you've had 2+ years, 3+ years to rein anything in, and no one has done a damn thing. Do you know why? They don't want guard rules. They don't want rules.
Well, the guardrail is supposed to be the NCAA, which hasn't done anything.
And the NCAA had all of its teeth pulled like in 1982.
And now I think there's case after case going through the court. Congress makes a law or tries to legalize unions or whatever happens down the road. I think it will be solved through the courts or through a law made through a legislative body.
Why hasn't it?
It's way too late
because they don't want the guardrails. They want a sheer cliff on either side, and they want to do everything they can to push every one of their opponents off.
Well, let's face it. I think we're very close to getting rid of the NCAA and having a commissioner. Maybe it's Nick Saban or something like that. In fact, this is what Matt Rule says that he would like to see in college football. I think you're getting closer to a 50-team league, a 60-team league, a union between the Big Ten and the SEC, and maybe some teams from the ACC or the Big 12. I think we're getting closer to that.
I do too. And in reality, and this is where I think you have longstanding tradition with conferences that they've thrown the tradition out the window because they're grabbing every team they can right now. So anybody that wants to say the conferences deserve to be here because of their tradition, well, they've already, went poo-poo to their tradition by inviting all these other schools in just to try to, win the arms race, etc. We need to abolish conferences. Just literally have a break of whether it's 54 or 60 teams, whatever it is. Eliminate the NCAA.
Well, you can do that. You can do that in the SEC. You can do that in the Big Ten.
Mini NFL.
You could do that in a couple of different leagues as you merge, but after you get to 50, 60 teams, whatever that number might be, there's still the rest of college football. What are there 134 teams in college football? What happens to everybody else?
So they can either stay with the NCAA or they could become the AHL. You got the NHL, then the AHL. Maybe they're
have their own championship.
Have their own championship, and then you go down to NAIA, etc. Like. Honest God truth, I'm sitting here just football alone. You can combine football and basketball. Rutgers, Northwestern, you know what? You're not going to be in. You guys are not in the 50+ team league. You just no, absolutely not.
What about Nebraska though? I mean, there are some that say, "Hey, what have you done, Nebraska? You finally won a bowl game. You finally got to a bowl game for the first time since 2017."
Do it a little bit. I can't stand the game of soccer. I think I despise the game. But I think the way they run their professional, where you have to say like a league that you can get demoted out of, there you go.
I actually kind of like that idea.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. And if Nebraska over a 6-year stretch absolutely sucks because they hire Scott Frost back, and then maybe they get demoted.
They're going to be people to say there's no SMU college football. It's probably what that means. That's probably what that means. Is Boise State out? Yes, that's probably what that means.
Vanderbilt, South Carolina.
The Big Ten and the SEC are already lobbying for 4 teams each. Remember, Matt Rule said that the Big Ten should get 4 teams. The SEC should get 4 teams. And everybody raked him over the coals before the season started. Then he turned out to be right.
I don't know if it was Dirk Chatelain may have been the one that posted the article, but it's a national writer that did a deep dive and said if you played by what the Big Ten and SEC want for rules going back to 2014, that those rules actually hurt the conference more than it helps. Like it's kind of a wash. There was like 1 or 2 years that it would have benefited them, and there's 1 or 2 years where it would have hurt them, and the rest of it was kind of it's exactly kind of the way it lined up. So it's more of an ego and a power thing, I think, than a money thing.
Matt Rule, this was a great conversation with college football, college show with a podcast. But he was talking about when he was at Temple. He would have been the first one to stand on the table and say, yes, Temple deserves to be in the college football playoff if we win our league. He says he's kind of had a change of heart. Sorry, that's not the one. This is the one right here. Here it is. Sorry. There it is. Yeah, and that's one of the big arguments with some schools not being able to sustain this new day and age of NIL and revenue sharing. I mentioned it before. Indiana is cutting their athletic department to pay for it because they realize they're going to have to pay players, and so they can't pay some salaries in the athletic department. Nebraska is one of those schools that, at least for now, continues to sell out Memorial Stadium, that is financially solvent, that doesn't have to dig into a trust fund, that has the money readily available. So when they say that we're allotting $14 million for football players, they can actually write checks, and those checks will cash. Some schools are saying, we'll write the checks, but please don't cash it yet.
We're going to post-date it.
Right. And he's not kidding. Nebraska has just built the Osprey complex, and a lot of schools are going to have to make those decisions in the future. Do you want to spend money on facilities, nicer facilities for players, or do you want to have the money to pay the player?
Well, that's what I mean. College football needs to eliminate itself, or needs to remove itself the 50 teams that Matt Rule's talking about. NCAA is no more. College football is no longer involved. For those 50 plus teams within the NCAA, they become their own thing. You're going to wind up with a players union. You're going to have a collective bargaining agreement, and it's literally they're going to go from high school straight to the pros, because that's what the NCAA college football without the NCAA is going to, or in my mind, needs to become. And then the teams that can afford it, fantastic. The ones that can't, you know what? Don't gut your athletic department. Don't cut off your nose to spite your face.
It's easy to say that, but they're going to try. They're going to try to compete, at least for a while.
I get it to some extent, but even in the NCAA, even the ones that don't make that commitment, those players at those schools are still going to get paid.
Yeah.
So just not quite as much.
Yep. We are efforting Bo Reed, Nebraska Basketball Hall of Famer. Hopefully we'll have him for this next segment. If not, we'll talk about something else.
Oh, yeah.
We've got all sorts of stuff we can talk about. Bo Reed, hopefully, on the air with us in just a few minutes. Otherwise, Caleb Henry of Husker Max at the top of the hour. Evan Bland, the Omaha World. We'll talk a little baseball and Husker football. More on the way. Mike Melby, Tom Stevens, Husker Rewind. More coming up. I'm going to call it. Call Bo Reed.
From IT marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
Here's another broadcast house station you may like.
B107.3.
Your playlist for the workday or the weekend. We're entertaining like that.
I just want to tell you guys how much I enjoy listening to this station and how much fun you guys bring to my morning and all day while I listen to you guys. Oh, for that. B107.3, of course.
Lincoln's #1 at work.
Hey, Bo.
B107.3.
Good. How are you? Hey, can we have you on this next segment? Okay, we'll call you right now on the other line. Perfect. Bye. Bye.
Affordable quality care is just a call or click away. Schedule your appointment today at StranskyVeterinary.org or call 402-473-5370. Stransky Veterinary Center, where compassionate care meets affordability.
While retinitis pigmentosa takes Mark's vision, his family gives him hope, whether at the family business or at home with his wife and sons. He knows he's not fighting alone. For 50 years, the Foundation Fighting Blindness has funded research into treatments and cures for blinding retinal diseases, providing hope to people with vision loss.
Hey, Bo.
And for Mark, winning the fight means
You having a good time? Having a good vacation?
Together,
Yeah.
Help us end blinding diseases at fightingblindness.org.
Oh.
I have some tips for you on
Okay. All right. We'll be on in a couple minutes talking Husker hoops. Perfect. Hang on.
And picked out the ways I thought would work best for me. I started by setting a quick date. Then I threw out my ashtrays, lighters, and matches. I did other things too, like exercising more, and it worked. But I'd still get cravings, especially on long car rides. To help me with that, here's a picture of my mother in my car. She died of lung cancer from smoking cigarettes when I was only 16. Now I have a 16-year-old daughter. That picture of my mother reminds me that I don't want to miss all the things my daughter is going to do in her life, including turning 17.
Bo's on.
Nice. For free help, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW.
I should have called him.
Well, we got it. It's all good. Gotta have a good segment talking about stuff.
Tom Stevens and Mike Melby with a combined 60-plus years of broadcasting experience. I guess that means they're really old. They're going to make a appearance till he's 90. Here's Tom Stevens and Mike Melby.
Welcome back. Tom Stevens, Mike Melby, Husker Rewind every Sunday, 5 to 7 p.m. The Nebraska basketball team coming off a tough loss in Happy Valley. Wasn't so happy.
89-72
to Penn State. They were without Burke Buchtengel, and they'll get him back, I think, tomorrow night versus 12th ranked Michigan. That is a tough game for Nebraska, who's squarely in the picture of the NCAA tournament at 17-10, 7-9 in the league. But a win tomorrow night would really help as we welcome in Nebraska Hall of Famer Bo Reed. Hi, Bo. How are you? Good. You're on vacation.
Sorry, we're not as good as you are right now. Holy smokes.
Are you a regular team at Northern Islands? What do you think? I imagine it is. Nebraska basketball. Obviously, they went through that 6-game stretch. They started the season at 12-2. They're 12-8, and then all of a sudden they win 4 in a row, 5 of the next 6, and they're back in the picture right now. Most experts have them in the NCAA tournament, but man, tomorrow night would be huge. You think so? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they're coming off a loss to Michigan State at home, but they have a coach, probably coach of the year, Dusty May. He's a coach that led Florida Atlantic to the Final Four in 2022 and 2023. They were maybe the worst team in the league, Michigan, last year under Juwan Howard, but now they've turned it around. Why do you think they've turned it around so quickly? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Danny Wolf and Vladislav Golden are the two that you're talking about, and combined, they average right out about 29 points and 17 rebounds a game. So, super dangerous from some 7-footers. Danny Wolf, he's the one that averages 4 assists a game. Well, let me ask you this. From a size standpoint, Nebraska's got Braxton Mia they can throw at him. Does Braxton have the defensive game to have an impact in a positive way for Nebraska against Danny Wolf?
Yeah, this. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and we'll see if we can get him badge. Sorry, hasn't played in the last 3 games. Is it due to that badly sprained ankle? Yeah, yeah. I think that he has a chance to play. We'll see. I want to ask you something about what Rick Pitino said. He is the St. John's coach now. He said on a podcast that if a 5-star called him up and said, "I want to play for you," I'd probably say no. I think this is a day and age where experience matters out of the portal more than a 5-star kid out of high school. What do you think of those comments? Yeah. Well, Fred has kind of turned it around as of late, more in the portal, and he has gone more experience with guys. You know, that old philosophy in college basketball: get old and stay old. Nebraska has done that a little more sufficiently, I would say, over the last couple of years. And next year, they're going to have Burke, they're going to have Rick Mask, then they're going to have Connor Asijan. it'd probably be the same formula. You still have to be somewhat old in the Big Ten, don't you? Yeah. Yeah.
But let me ask you something.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to ask you about not only Bryce, but just the last two games for the team as a whole. They somehow find 15 minutes of good basketball out of 80 minutes that was a disaster. What do you think it was a little mental and those locations, and it's going to be easy to get out of that funk?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think he did, because we should have.
I thought Tim Miles there was one
One
game
game they did win that they had.
Yeah. 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 They're yeah. Hey, Bo, they're talking about increasing the number of teams to 76 in the NCAA tournament. Do you like the idea? Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I don't think it's necessary.
So, well, so let me ask you that. So, from the standpoint of 68, did we eliminate the play-in game? Thank you.
There you go.
I like it.
Well, thanks for joining us.
One quick question before I got to know before.
Okay, go ahead.
Bo, what did you order? What did you order? What food is on the way? Oh, nice.
Grill. Are you coming back? You come back to the Grand Caymans? Yep.
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm a little worried that they might be angry coming off that loss to Michigan State, but Nebraska can win them. Yep. Yep. I know you do. We appreciate the time. We'll see you. We'll see you down the road. We'll talk to you down the road because Nebraska is going to be in this tournament, and we definitely need. Thanks, Bo.
Bo, enjoy the rest of your vacation, man. Well deserved.
Yeah, he's the best. Having fun in the Cayman Islands. What was he getting for dinner?
The mixed grill.
So
I'm sure he's going to have some scallops on there. There may be some red snapper. I don't even know what else would be down there that he's going to have, but I guarantee you it's going to be amazing.
Sounds like he's been laying on the beach having a good time. So there you go. I was going to ask him about this, but there are several teams that have called it quits, or several coaches that have called it quits just this year. Jim Larinaga at Miami, a legendary coach. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, but borderline Hall of Famer. He might be a Hall of Famer. Has called it quits. You have Tony Bennett, who's won a national championship, maybe 2. Has he won 2 at Virginia? Who called it quits before the start of the season this year, saying that revenue sharing, NIL, just not his bag. This day and age of having to recruit and then go through an agent. And Larinaga said the same thing, that he doesn't want to talk to agents. He doesn't want to have to recruit that way. He called it quits. There's some that are saying that that's one of the reasons that Roy Williams hung it up.
Yeah.
Even though you can make
it's a big reason Nick Saban hung it up. It's the landscape of college football.
I actually think it can help Nebraska both in football and basketball. I think down the road, Nebraska will be able to, as we said earlier, they'll be able to deliver checks to athletes and they'll actually cash. With all the expenses that are coming the way of all these conferences, I think it's going to be a good thing for Nebraska basketball and Nebraska football. I think we already saw in the portal that Matt Rule was able to get 16 guys, 15 guys, whatever it was, and get a lot of the guys that he thinks will make Nebraska competitive and maybe make a run for the college football playoff this year.
Saturday, January 19th, 2013, at Penn State, Nebraska basketball won 68-64. That's the only time they've won at Penn State.
I remember that. And that was a Tim Miles, right?
Yep.
Tim Miles team.
Yep.
They won at Penn State. Did they make the tournament? They didn't make the tournament that year.
That was not the year.
That was 2014.
That was 2014.
They made the tournament. All right, let's get to break. Come back with more. Caleb Henry of Husker Backs.
Siobhan Shields had 29 in that game.
Ooh, nice. Was Devereaux Biggs on that team? I thought I remember him playing in that game.
No, Shields, Gallegos. Gallegos had 15. Dylan Talley, David Rivers, Andre Almeida, Brandon Ubel, Benny Parker, Jordan Tyrants.
I think they kind of made it fun. He was great. All right, Caleb Henry.
Your life changes, your risk tolerance changes, and so that's really where
I hate this phone.
How do I make it so I can sit back, relax, and enjoy the music? Saturdays at 8 a.m. on KLIN. The dangers of secondhand smoke are well known. But what about secondhand aerosol, which is created when using e-cigarettes? Science already shows a secondhand aerosol can contain nicotine, heavy metals, and cancer-causing agents. Eliminating exposure to secondhand aerosol is an important.
Hey, Caleb, how are you?
Breathe easier knowing the facts.
For help quitting, call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line. 1-800-QUIT-NOW.
Talk a little Husker hoops and basketball, or basketball and a little football as well.
Extreme weather and climate disasters.
It does not?
Become a reoccurring part of our lives. And less than half of all pet owners have a disaster plan in place. Unfortunately, parents tend to forget about
Okay. He says the phone line is not feeding the stream.
That's not good.
It has been, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it has been.
I wonder if it's because of the new setup.
I bet it's the new setup. We're going through 1620 in Omaha. And I don't know what's going on. This is our first week with the new setup.
On StreamYard.
On StreamYard. Oh, well. Anyway, we're back here in just a sec. Hey.
Heidi say anything? I would thought she would have.
I don't know. It's not the biggest deal in the world.
No, I mean, if they can't hear what the whatever it is, but.
Straight ahead, has Schumacher. Sends a little Shrek out of bounds. We're good. Huskers win. Golly, grand kids. Nebraska sweeps Wisconsin on the road, no less. And for the first time in 41 years, Nebraska knocks off a top-ranked team in the country.
We'll go and do Big Ten Blitz after this.
Squeezes the line dry, and on a night filled with emotion, honoring our leader, Greg Sharp, with his eyes on the diamond and his hands on our shoulders, Nebraska takes down 16th ranked Vanderbilt 6-4. Sharpie, that one is for you.
Now, here's Tom Stevens and Mike.
Welcome back, hour number 2. Tom Stevens, Mike Melby, Husker Rewind every Sunday, 5 to 7. Talk to Bo Reed, Nebraska Hall of Famer, and
Husker Loops, and we'll do the same with Caleb Henry and Vincent
football as well. Caleb Henry used to be on the morning show with Jackson Friends, and now is at
Husker Max doing some writing.
I heard you on talking about Munch Madness this week. Who do you have it winning this week? Who do you have winning it all this year? Oh, great breakfast. Fantastic breakfast.
I'll tell you what, I was in Muchachos last week talking to Nick, and I had not done their street tacos yet. We would normally do like a breakfast burrito and with whatever protein, and I'd had the hash mac burrito, and I just said, now let's just do a street taco. There's the works that you can get put on there, which is a red sauce, a green sauce, a sweet and spicy slaw, and then I think their avocado aioli.
Yeah.
That is literally the best street taco I have ever had in my life. I think
tacos is going to be tough. They won this thing twice, right?
Ooh. Yeah. See, you guys are both foodies. Do you eat at most of these places? Have you eaten at most of these places?
Now, my girlfriend and I eat out way more than I should.
And I think we probably hit about every one of these. And to Virginia's Travelers Cafe, the Haystack is still one of the best menu options in Lincoln.
All right, we probably should talk a little sports.
Nebraska taking on Michigan at the full break.
Michigan coming up a loss to Michigan State on Friday night, and we don't know. It hasn't been announced if Berkay is back. I don't like Nebraska's chances, even if Berkay comes back and he's a little injured, it's still going to be tough, right?
That they are. So they've got 4 games left in the regular season. I think 3-1, whether the loss is Michigan, as long as it's not at home against Minnesota, 3-1 and they're in no matter what happens in the Big Ten tournament. 2-2, it's going to depend on the wins, and they may need a win in the Big Ten tournament and they're in. What are your thoughts on kind of that big picture of this next 5 games over the next couple of weeks? Yeah, so is Penn State, and we learned that lesson.
Yeah. I think we should be promoting right now a no sit Monday. No sit Monday needs to happen at PVA. 17-10, Nebraska 7-9 in the league, playing against the Michigan team that is really good, even coming off that loss. Dusty May is probably coach of the year of this league, right? I saw that. They're a bubble team now, right? They fired their coach and now they're a bubble team. Where would you rank
the Big Ten? The SEC is the best conference, right?
A couple of things happened in Nebraska football this last week. No spring game for sure. Nebraska backs out of the Tennessee home and home series here in a couple of years. Thoughts on those 2 developments?
I agree. I agree. Well put. Matt Rule was on the Josh Pate College Football Show. I'm sure you've heard it. He talked about possibly a 50-team, 60-team league coming soon, a merger between the Big Ten and the SEC, and maybe a few teams from the ACC. How quickly do you think that could happen in college football? Yeah, that's true.
Caleb Henry from Husker Max joining us on the Summit Lawns talk and text line. Along that lines, let's say there is a 50-60 team breakaway and it's Big Ten SEC led. Do all of the current teams in those conferences make the move? Yeah. Northwestern, Vanderbilt, Rutgers, Maryland, are they good enough to be in that super conference?
Yep. And money. One more for you from me. Troy Dannon recently talked to Tom Chattel and others, mentioned that Nebraska hasn't invested enough into Husker football over the last couple of years. I think it was $12 million for coaches' salaries. Now they're up to somewhere around $17 million. I saw it reported where Ohio State spent right around $28 million. How big of a deal is that? The spending of Nebraska football to be caught up to the Penn States, the Ohio States, Michigans of the world. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that's the whole thing is we could go spend 20, we could give the current staff $28 million. The problem is they're not worth it.
No,
I mean,
Dana Holgerson might be the one guy.
They haven't, but
not 28
in their
million.
current configuration, they haven't done anything to warrant $28 million. Let me ask you this. E.J. Barthel got a pay raise. Is this good for Nebraska or bad? Because I'm on probably the different side of the fence than what most people are.
Yeah.
where I'm at.
Right.
Absolutely nothing.
Caleb, great stuff. We appreciate your time.
We hope to have you back soon.
Awesome. All right. There you go. Caleb Hedry, Husker Max, formerly KLIN, Jack and Friends. Great stuff. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Caleb.
There you go. We've got some Husker baseball to talk about. I do want to get into a little of the Big Ten Blitz. We've got a few games to talk about. And if I can punch the button, there it is.
You want to go or you want me to go?
You go.
I will go first. We'll talk about Nebraska's next opponent, the Wolverines. Number 12 ranked in the country, took on Michigan State last Friday night. And close game at half. Michigan actually led by 438-34, but Sparty rolls in the second half, outscoring the Wolverines by 17 for a 75-62 win in Ann Arbor. Michigan's top two guys, 32 points, but they did so on 22 shots. Danny Wolf and Vladislav Golden are the two big 7-footers, and they are dangerous. But Michigan in this game falls to 20-6, 12-3 now in the conference, and another big win by Sparty. Next up for Michigan, it is here in Lincoln at PBA tomorrow night. Michigan State is at Maryland on Wednesday.
Isaiah Evans, 17 points. Cooper Flagg, 16 as Duke, third ranked in the country, showed why they are. 25-3, destroyed Illinois at Madison Square Garden last night. 110-67, the most lopsided loss in Illinois basketball history. Flagg expected to be the top pick in the NBA draft. Trey White, that is, 16 points for Illinois. But they missed their first 17 shots from three-point range, and now they're moving closer to the bubble. I thought they were automatically in. We'll see where they go, but I'm never disappointed when I see Brad Underwood and his teams lose. He might be my least favorite coach in the world. Duke is in Miami, is at Miami on Tuesday. Illinois is home versus Iowa Tuesday.
Nate Biddle had 23 points, and Jackson Shellstad made a desperation long three to force overtime as Oregon beat number 11 Wisconsin in Madison, 77-73 in overtime. 11-7, the Ducks outscore the Badgers. Biddle, a 7-footer, scored 6 points in overtime to help snap very good Wisconsin's 5-game winning streak. Let's see.
Nebraska's win over Oregon is looking better every day.
Oh, it really is.
They've won 5 straight.
Yeah, it really is. John Tanji led the way for the Badgers with 22 points. And for Oregon, they host USC on Thursday. Wisco hosts Washington on Tuesday.
Yonek Conan the Barbarian Niederhauser had 24 points as Penn State dominated a 17-minute stretch of that game versus Minnesota on the road and win 69-60. Penn State went on a 13-0 run after halftime to control that game. Penn State has now back-to-back wins after losing 7 in a row. Dawson Garcia did have 11 points for Minnesota, but he was only 3 for 16 from the field and lost Penn State 15-13, 5-12 in the league. Minnesota dropped to 14-13, 6-10 in the league. Both those teams fighting to stay out of the basement of the Big Ten. Minnesota will host Northwestern on Tuesday. Penn State is at Indiana Wednesday.
All right, we'll switch it up then. I'll go with Indiana-Purdue. The game that was kind of shocking, I think, to anybody and everybody involved in college basketball. Purdue musters a whopping 21 points in the second half blows a 12-point halftime lead and gets run out of the gym by the Indiana Hoosiers in the second half. Indiana improves to 16-11, 7-9 in the conference. Purdue falls to 19-9, 11-6 in the conference. I'll be honest, this reminded me a little bit of the Nebraska-Iowa game, only the roles were reversed with home and away. But Purdue, big lead halftime and early in the second half, and then they just get boat raced in the second half. So number 13, Purdue goes down
played
there.
earlier today.
That was played earlier today. And next up is
Indiana might be
UCLA
closer to the
for
bubble.
Purdue.
They win a couple more, they might be in.
And Illinois loses a couple more, they may be out.
UCLA looks like they're in. They win 69-61 over Ohio State, as Ohio State is inching off the bubble in a bad way. Cronin picked up 59 wins, 20 points for UCLA. As I mentioned, Cronin gets his 500th win, and it's the sixth straight season at UCLA. He has won 135 games with the Bruins.
Nice.
He's not my favorite coach in the world. He's kind of a jerk.
Well, he's not kind of. He owns it.
He's a really good coach.
He's words we cannot say on the air is what he is.
So here we go. As far as teams on the bubble in the NCAA tournament, the Big Ten has 5 teams in the top 25. You assume all of those are in the tournament. Wisconsin is 11th, Michigan 12th, Purdue 13th, and Michigan State 14th. Maryland is 20th ranked. Oregon is now in, along with UCLA, safely in the tournament. And then there are several teams squarely on the bubble. Nebraska, one of those, at 17-10, with Michigan in town tomorrow. They win that game. I think they're in. Joining them on the bubble, you mentioned Illinois. Blowout loss to Duke, 110-67 last night. And they're now 17-10 over 17-11 overall with that blowout loss. Ohio State, now 15-13. I think they're on the bubble.
I think they're a ways away from the bubble. They're not even on most people's second four out.
They were squarely in just a week or so ago. Now they're you're right. They're probably south of the bubble as we speak. And then Indiana. I think Indiana is inching closer to the bubble. That's a big win over Purdue.
Yeah, and I mean, Mike Woodson says, I've had enough. I'm calling it quits at the end of the year, and maybe that's all they need.
That happens every year. A fired coach goes on a run.
He's stepping away. He was not fired. He just chose to step down at the end of the season.
Was he? He was going to be fired. You can't fire me. I quit.
That could be. I mean,
Chris Beard rumored to be the next coach, the Ole Miss coach, former Texas Tech coach.
Yeah. I think he'll be good there.
I've said this many times about Indiana basketball. It reminds me of Nebraska football. It's a once proud fan base that's won, I don't know how many, 3 national titles, 4 national titles, whatever it is under Bobby Knight, that thinks they should be there. Like it's their right to be among the top 20 every year. And I think they started as a top 20 team coming into the year. But they remind me a lot of Nebraska football fans.
I'm trying to find it. Matt Painter was asked about the Indiana job. Seth Toe, Lee Barthnick retweeted this. Seth Toe is the one that posted it. And he's a writer for somebody. It says, I asked Matt Painter for his thoughts on the Indiana basketball job and its place in the college basketball landscape. And he gave a whale of an answer. I have not listened to it. It popped up here.
I heard it. It's really good.
Yeah, and like I said, Lee Barthnick is the one that retweeted this to where I saw it. I haven't had a chance to listen to it, but I can't wait. So look it up if you have not as well, and enjoy, because Matt Painter is one of the best in the business.
All right, there you go. Let's rank the teams. Where's Nebraska ranked? Somewhere in the middle of the pack, maybe 8th, something like that. But win tomorrow night, and if Berke is back, man, that would be a huge win for Nebraska basketball. I think it puts them in. Back with more after this. Mike Melby, Tom Stevens. It's Husker Rewind.
Evan's up next, right?
Yep.
They must have completed 30 credits as of May 31st, 2025.
help you reach your career goals. For more information, contact 14993KLIN.
Or click ne-va.org. Application deadline is March 1st, 2025. Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy.
Hey, Evan, how are you? Good, good. Did you watch any of those games? Was there anywhere to watch Husker baseball this weekend? Oh, Big Ten Plus. Were they Big Ten Plus Friday? Oh, ESPN. Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk a little baseball and football coming up. Hang on. Perfect.
It can feel like you're the only person on earth. And sometimes that's how it feels when you're going through tough times. Stress builds up. You have trouble sleeping. Maybe your mind is racing and you just don't feel like yourself. So what do? We get help. Lots of people are struggling with their mental health. It's more common than you think. The good news is there are people in our community who are here for us when times are tough. Sometimes just talking to someone can make all the difference in the world, so we don't feel so alone. One thing you can do is visit loveyourmindtoday.org for simple steps you can take to find the right solution for you. Whether it's hearing stories about what other people are going through or finding the resources we need to navigate the stresses in our lives. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Hey Max, you look absolutely dashing in that purple tie. Ready to harness the world?
You bet, Daisy. But I'm ready as I'll ever be. And when I say your purple tie,
Stuart Mandel went back through the 2014 to 24 college football rankings to see just how much the SEC Big Ten would benefit from getting 4 automatic qualifier bids. The answer, barely at all. It would have backfired on them several times. Yeah, it's ego. That's all it is.
Ego?
It's ego that they run the college football landscape. They kind of
The
do.
money runs the landscape.
I get it, but
which now
with
allows
them,
you to buy the
just like
players.
with so many people, it's all about ego. They don't give a crap about the student athletes. They don't care about any of it. It's their own ego.
I would agree.
There's a car in the Missouri River. Omaha
Floating?
Fire and Rescue are attempting a rescue.
You want to take it back?
Sure.
I'm sorry. I should have had you do that earlier.
No, we're good.
You can introduce Evan.
60% of the time, it works. Every time. On 1499.3 KLIN.
Welcome back to Husker Rewind. Tom Stevens over there.
Hey.
I'm Mike Melby, and joining us now on the talking text line from the Omaha World Herald, Mr. Evan Bland. Evan, how's your Sunday going? When I went out to feed the squirrels earlier today, I wore flip-flops. Felt good. Felt good.
Are you a regular out there feeding the squirrels? That seems like an old man thing to.
Oh, dude, since 2020, when I started building all the bird houses, the squirrel houses, and feeders, I feed them every day.
Those are amazing. The picnic table squirrel houses.
Yeah.
He does build squirrel houses there, Evan. So if you'd like to buy one, I think they're for sale from Mike Melby. There you go.
Hey, I built a squirrel mansion. It actually has a wraparound porch and a lower deck.
Good times. Nebraska baseball. They win Friday night. Probably won't be ranked 23rd come next week, but Louisiana's a good team. How'd you grade this weekend for Nebraska baseball?
Evan, we had Lance Harvell on before the season started, and he mentioned the fact that, he gets that he doesn't have Bryce Matthews and Max Anderson, but he thought the Huskers had some pop this year, and that it was going to be a couple of games where they just waited for that 3-run bomb. It hasn't materialized that really at all so far, and they've got a weekend coming up where they've got one of the best teams that are going to get down on Saturday in LSU, and then two other tough games, Sam Houston and K-State in the Frisco College Baseball Classic. It's not exactly the lineup to go against to really get things rolling. Those are teams that can keep you down. What do they have to do to try to get the bats kind of fired up and going again?
Talking with Evan Bland of the Reed Herald. Will Bullis never wanted to mince words. He called the offense pathetic, as you mentioned. Through 7 games, it has been at times 66 strikeouts, as you mentioned, and only 11 walks. Is that a trend? We've seen that happen in Major League Baseball over the last few years, where teams are swinging more for the fences and they don't mind the strikeout. Is that something that's shifting into the college game? Because there were quite a few strikeouts last year as well.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you played 7 games and you're hitting 217 as a team with a 330 slugging percentage. It's actually kind of remarkable with those two stats that they have won 3 games, to be honest with you. But I want to kind of go across the big walkway between the stadiums and talk about Nebraska softball just for a couple of minutes. Jordy Ball living up to all of the expectations so far this year. 5 home runs, hitting 514, 0.54 earned run average before today. Gave up a couple earned runs today, but what do you see and kind of feel coming from Bolin Stadium and Ron Rovell's crew this year?
We're talking with Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald, covers Nebraska baseball and football. I want to ask you a question about Tom Chattel. He wrote about Troy Dana today in the Omaha World Herald and his 1-year anniversary coming up in March. How would you grade his first year as athletic director at Nebraska?
Let's go. I want to go back real quick and touch on the one, to me, the biggest thing that he's accomplished here that was presented to him to try to tackle the problem. And that is Coach Cook saying, I'm going to step away, and how he handled that entire situation. There's one perfect way to handle that situation, and that's what he did. But man, there were so many ways that could have gone sideways, and it didn't. And his ability to get that done, to me, speaks more than volumes about the type of athletic director that we've got. But I don't agree with canceling the Tennessee game. That bugs me. I want to go play the best every time we can. So. You going to miss the spring game?
They're going to do something. What are they going to do this year? I mean, they say they'll do something. What will it be? Yeah. All right, Evan. We appreciate the time. Thanks for it. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Evan.
There you go. Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald. Always appreciate his time. Good stuff on Husker baseball and football. Are you going to miss? It's possible. Runs is no longer at Memorial Stadium, right? That could be next year. They've still got 1 year, I believe, maybe 2 left on their contract. Val's Pizza, a real possibility that it'll be gone this year.
Yeah.
I want to talk about it. Will you miss it? Coming up just a few.
I want to, if I can bring back the last one, do a little shout out.
Okay.
To Mr. Donnie Adams.
Who's that?
That's the Celebration of Life I'm going to head to afterwards at Rococo.
Oh, yeah. So we went to, who was it that we?
That was the benefit for him.
Okay, same guy.
Yeah, same guy. He passed away. I don't exactly know when he passed away. It was within the last month.
Okay.
I don't know exactly the date.
Was it cancer?
Yeah.
Is there music tonight? Or?
Yeah. I don't know who the bands are for sure, but
I don't think I can make it.
Huh?
I don't think I can make it.
Yeah, I know I'm going down because I think Flug will be there, and Zuha and Jim Morand and kind of my old family from the Stars should all be there. Yeah, I'm trying to land Nick as a and Muchachos as a sponsor for Rewind.
Yeah?
Yeah, I talked to him about it.
On this show?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I talked to Amy, and she's going to have their account rep
kind of reach out to him about maybe
Oh, nice.
doing something with us.
Travis is moving his show over here on Saturdays, so, and he's no longer the LIBA head, so maybe and he says he's going back to marketing, so maybe he can get us some more stuff.
After an eye injection or exam, don't delay. Ask your doctor about eye survey today. Visit eyesurvey.com.
Every time I hear Lowrider, I always think of Gone in 60 Seconds. What a great movie that is.
There's several, weren't there?
Yeah. One.
There's just
This
one?
isn't Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, I
This is
thought
Gone in
that, for
60
some reason, I
Seconds.
thought that was a series too.
No. Nope.
Nick Cage is the
Nope.
greatest.
Nick Cage, Angelina Jolie, and a bunch of actors that you recognize from 10 different
Oh,
movies.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that was a great movie.
Yeah.
I just, for some reason, I thought there were
Robert
at least
Duvall.
two. Robert Duvall, yeah. Why didn't they make a sequel?
No.
No?
I didn't see a sequel. The only reason I would have needed a sequel is because somebody needed a paycheck.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
all the sequels ever are. Yeah, that was not a sequel that needed to be made.
But then again, Major League 2 was not a sequel to be made.
Caleb was fantastic.
Yeah, he always is.
That?
Yep. Van Wilder, another movie, did not need a sequel.
We got to redo the.
Huh?
We got to redo the opening kickoff.
Oh, yeah, because he doesn't want any.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome back to Husker Rewind. That's Tom Stevens.
Hello.
I'm Mike Melby. Final segment of the show. I'm going to give a quick, if you're watching on the stream, you've seen this posted on my name. This is kind of in honor of Donnie Adams. Rest in peace, DA. Donnie was the guy, for those that have been to the Icebox and they have seen that spectacular light show, kind of reinvented what light shows and what like it was to have an insane atmosphere.
Sure.
Donnie Adams is the reason that the Icebox has the show that it has had for almost 30 years. He built the Star. He designed and programmed the light show. He's the one, I believe, that came up with using Thunderstruck. He built the show that is the Lincoln Stars production prior to the game and throughout the game.
Did not know that.
Yeah, one of the most unbelievably talented individuals. He was on the road as a roadie for years and years and years with Garth Brooks. I know he did some stuff with Shania Twain. I think he toured with Def Leppard for a while. And when he finally settled back down in Lincoln, it was right back around the mid 90s. And
just ran lights on most of the
these
shows.
He ran the lights, and the Star and all that type of stuff, and controlled a bunch of everything that went on every game. But all the work that he did behind the scenes, not on game night, that you're talking hundreds and hundreds.
And what about the
of
Rockets? What did he do?
Well, he was. Yeah, I don't know exactly what he did.
Right.
He was involved in all aspects of it, and then he was the guy that basically took care of all of that type of stuff at PBA the day it opened, and he did that for many years. But one of the most sought after people in that realm in America, period. Not just in the region, not just in Lincoln or Omaha.
Did not know that.
He was that good, and it was an honor to know him. And you know, Stars fans enjoy what he created every single home game.
Rip, for sure. There is a real possibility that Valentino's will not exist at Memorial Stadium this year. Aramark, I should say, is the new provider for food at Memorial Stadium. And they're kind of experts in stadiums transitioning to alcohol, which Nebraska will do this year. Husker football fans have had Valentino's Pizza at the game since like 1999, for a long time. So we'll see if they re-sign. I believe the contract is up in June. I would think they'll work something out because Valentino's Pizza is kind of a legendary thing, along with Wimmer's hot dogs and Runza's.
Fairbury hot dogs.
What they're originally Fairbury, and then they went to Wimmer's bottom.
They still use the Fairbury mark.
Yeah, it's still the red dye. It's all the stuff that Fairbury.
Nothing's changed. It's still Fairbury brand. It's just they're owned by Wimmers now. So yeah.
By the way, I got the Mark Rude from Fairbury Franks used to run the Derviner Slinger, and that thing was so high powered. it could shoot a hot dog over Memorial Stadium.
Yep.
It was incredible. So he let me use it from time to time, and nobody died when I used it. It was great.
Swedes at all kinds of events. We actually had Swede on Nebraska Gems, the guy that kind of runs it through most of the promotions now for Fairbury.
I know you don't go to a ton of games, but if you're picking one of three, Wimmer's hot dogs, Runza's, or Val's Pizza, which one
do you have to have?
Is there
any of them? I've never cared for Runza's. I think they're disgusting.
I love them. I don't get them at the game because they don't have the cheese runs at the game.
Yeah, I just it's not my thing. They got some of the best fries in town, but I
chili, they're good chili and burgers.
Okay, I don't like the burger. I don't like anything other than the French fries. I'm sorry.
I will say this about you: you may be the most picky person I've ever known.
I'll own it. Val's.
I'd go with Val's probably.
I'd lean hot dog actually. If I'm going to go to a game, I want a good hot dog.
I want a hot dog, and I'm with you though.
But my problem
at the games, you can't get a cheese Runza, so I'm out.
Yeah,
on the runs.
My problem with Val's at games, very rarely do you get a piece of pizza that was cooked within the last 3 hours. It feels like because they're always kind of lukewarm, no matter where you are when you get them. But it's going to stink if any of the three are no longer there, just because they're all three Nebraska traditions. But at the end of the day, Aramark is a company I've worked with in the past at some of my other jobs.
They have like 150 venues throughout.
Yeah, and
I know they're
unbelievably. They are a big corporation, and they've got a lot of cogs and wheels that spin pretty effortlessly. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to how much money can they make on selling Runza's Fairbury brand hot dogs?
I would think a lot. They're going to provide food for not only Memorial Stadium, but Devaney and Hibner Stadium. But Val's contract is up in June. Runza and Wimmers have 2 more years on their contracts. I would think that they'll work something out. Aramark has agreed to pay Nebraska 42% of the commission rate, up to $8 million a year. So it's a good deal for Nebraska.
Yeah, if I remember right, looking through some of the contract terms and what was released about what was bid by Premier Catering and all that type of stuff, it wasn't really a difficult decision for them. Financially, it made far more sense. And you've got a organization that's gone through, as you mentioned, the transformation from non-alcohol to alcohol stadiums. And this is kind of what they do.
I don't need alcohol at games. I really don't. I've always been a guy that likes to show up at the tailgate, have a few beverages, but I don't need it at the game. But there apparently have been studies, and I think, well, except for Nebraska, is Nebraska the only Big Ten school that doesn't have alcohol right now? I think so. I think
with the 4 new ones coming in, I don't know. I know they've talked about by the end by 2024, everybody Nebraska has Big Ten, so I don't know what the Pac-12.
There have been studies that show that there are fewer fights of alcohol in the stadium.
Well, less binge drinking outside because they can grab a beer.
Right.
Less
$15 beer.
Yeah, true. Very true.
We've been to a couple basketball games together, and it's easily $40.
You said I'll buy the next round. The last game we were at.
What do you have?
And I said, double goose of vodka.
It was
double goose
of lemonade. I said I'll join you. I think the bill was $46 for 2 of those.
And I was going to say, you know what? I paid for the last one, so.
Oh well, it was my turn. Those are the rules. Fun show. Big thanks.
Absolutely.
Big thanks to Bo Reed from the Cayman Islands, Evan Bland of the Omaha World Herald.
Yeah.
And
Huskers need a big win tomorrow night, so get to PBA. Don't sit down, scream and yell, and throw the Wolverines.
Why haven't we done a no-sit day since no-sit Sunday? It's time.
We haven't had a team that warranted it until last year.
This would get them in the NCAA tournament. Don't sit down. It doesn't matter how much complaining is done behind it. Stand up. We need a win. See you, Mike. See you next week. Bye-bye.